Hey, everybody, we're going live now to talk about the subject at hand. People have been writing me, asking me if I could do my lives on different days and different times because they want to participate and tune in, but they can't make my usual time. So, this is what that's for. And also, people have been asking me if I can do shorter, less webinar type lives and just keep them maybe a little shorter. So, that's what this one is about. We're going to talk about eating disorders alive and well on social media, which are really, really obvious to someone who's trained in the area. I've been helping people deal with eating disorders for, well, about a decade or over a decade, actually, since I left the hardcore bodybuilding world where eating disorders became rampant with the advent of figure and bikini competitions. But it's one of those things that is a dirty little secret that no one wants to talk about. And then when they talk about solving it, they haven't really solved it at all. So I'm going to get to that misrepresentation later on in what I have to say. So hopefully you'll all participate. Let me know when you're out there and if this is interesting to you or not. But I think it's something I needed to cover, especially since I cover so much about diet and metabolism and whatnot. Seeing it all misrepresented is frustrating, but also it can mislead otherwise healthy people to go down a very dangerous rabbit hole. So that's what I want to talk about right now. So yeah, we're just going to throw this up there on the screen. So beware eating disorders disguised as health and fitness. There's too many people out there right now who obviously have eating disorders from mediocre to severe, who are putting the word fitness beside their name, Jane Doe Fitness or whatever, Jane Doe Empowerment. And then if you look at everything they're doing, it's just a ridiculous practice of eating disorders and whatnot. So hopefully you're all seeing that, hearing that. Yeah, so hopefully you will be able to benefit from this and participate all you want. So we're getting some people on board. So feel free to comment. I'm going to get into it, and then, like I said, I'm going to try not to have like an hour long webinar because people have requested shorter ones. So, hey Mark, hey MK, and hey Vince, thanks for tuning in. I know it's the middle of a work day, but if people can tune in, then that would be great. So this is a real disturbing trend for me, and I'm going to tell you why. Mostly because of the proliferation of social media and Instagram and what we now call Insta influencers, who really aren't informed, aren't educated, aren't well researched, aren't really have any kind of academic background in the things they're advocating and talking about, and then they're presenting all that as health and fitness, and it's really, really, really disturbing. So I'm not going to use any names because I don't want to draw any attention to these people. One of the reasons I'm doing this is we all know I have a pretty small but loyal following in social media because I'm not that social media savvy, but I've been studying it a lot lately. And these Insta influencers, the reason this is so troublesome is they have hundreds of thousands of followers. And when I look at something that is clearly indicative of an eating disorder, you look in their comment section and it's, oh, that's great. I'm going to try that. And I'm going to do this. And you look wonderful and all the rest of it. And wow, someone needs to get people to check yourself before you wreck yourself, because they're going down a very, very dangerous place, and they're being led by really sick, ill people who clearly have an eating disorder. So it's a really disturbing trend, and I thought, if I'm not part of the solution, I'm part of the problem. I've written books about this. I've done courses on this. I've had to research it because, like I said, when I was still in the competition arena, metabolic damage and eating disorders exploded, and no one was dealing with them in healthy ways. So I became quite educated and have been researching it for over a decade, 15 years now. So I recognize it as soon as I see it. And I just want to discuss it. And if you guys got any thoughts, throw them along while we're discussing it. I'd be happy to post them and get the conversation going. So, especially on social media like Instagram, YouTube especially, where some are trying to be influencers, they're trying to make a living by being social media influencers. So we need to look for the clear signs of what's called EDNOS and orthorexia. EDNOS stands for eating disorders not otherwise specified. So that's really, really something that we need to talk about, because there's not a clear delineation of that in the academia. I'm going to talk about, oh God, this weighs a ton. But this is Modern Nutrition in Health and Disease. I've posted it before. It's a 3,000 page textbook. I'm going to refer to that a little bit as we get going along. But, look for things first. What I've noticed is they start off with something like keto, or worse, vegan keto. Now, Michael Greger has already talked about how nonsensical keto is, and then how it's punctuated. If you want to do something like vegan keto, it's even more ridiculous, and I'll get to that. But most internal medicine and metabolism experts label keto as a starvation diet, regardless of calorie intake. And you can see my webinar on that. Keto is an epic failure on my YouTube channel. Dr. Andrew Weil, for instance, he just came out within the last week or two. He's a clinical professor of internal medicine, Harvard educated, doctor of integrative medicine as well. And quote, keto diet is not a healthy way to eat. So let me just grab that here, and someone wants to post that. I'd be happy to post that. But this is one of the things you start looking for right from the beginning. So this is Dr. Andrew Weil's comment right there. Keto diet is not a healthy way to eat. So one of these, these influencers, right away you look for signs of calorie deprivation. And I'm going to get more into that as I go along. So, but even these types of starvation diets, their followers seldom actually show really, really high fat meals in their social media posts. So keto is supposed to be a high fat diet. But when I look through their social media feed, they don't seem to show that. They show high protein, no starch carbs with fibrous carb posts, and they call that keto, but it's still just low fat, which is not keto. Like, for example, one of the ones that I was going to post here, but then it would give away who it was, and I don't want to be appearing like I'm attacking somebody. The doctor that said that, Paul, is Andrew Weil, alternative medicine specialist, used to be on the president's panel and whatnot. He's been pretty quiet of late, but published a gazillion books and all the rest of it. So, but I mean, also Dr. Greger has said that. A million people have said that. So. But let me get back to, so they're advocating keto, but then you don't see the really high fat meals in their social media posts. So one of the ones I was going to posted a plain skinless chicken breast with asparagus with the word keto beside it. And all that is low carb, no carb. But where's the extremely high fat component of that meal that's supposed to be there, since the person was advocating the wonderfulness of keto diet? So very, very important. So Paul, yeah, the link for my video it's not on ketosis, it's on the nonsense of the keto diet. You can find that on my YouTube channel. Just go to my YouTube channel and search keto diet is an epic fail. That's the title. Maybe someone can find that as we're talking and post it in the comment section. So even when someone's advocating following something, you look at what they're posting, and it's a constant contradiction. So this person's posting just a plain grilled chicken breast with asparagus, and then label across the screen was keto. That's not keto. Keto was an ultra high fat diet, and there was no fat in that meal at all. But it doesn't stop there, because then this is what I want to get to. This is the crux of why this is so concerning, because then these eating disorder people combine this kind of depletion diet with something else that's also depleting, like intermittent fasting along with it, or 1 meal a day keto, or 1 meal a day vegan, or whatever. So now added to a starvation diet approach is more ways to deny the body and double down on deprivation, which is really what these eating disorder people are all about, is they function on restriction-based mindset. How much food can I restrict and call it healthy? But then they go on and advocate this as influencers for other people to adopt and follow. And if you know my stuff, then you know the trappings of short-term things like that. So very, very important. Andrew Wheelpaul is W-I-E-L or W-E-I-L, sorry. Yeah. So very, very important. Tom just posted the link. Let me just throw that link up there for you, and then I'll get back to the lecture at hand because I want you guys to participate. So thank you, Tom. So that's the link to that. So often, you know, so they're looking at deprivation right from the beginning, and you look for signs of that in how they are really about calorie restriction, even though they're advocating health and wellness, and I'll get to all that as well. So they combine that with other ways to deprive and deny the body. So now they add those ways and they compound them so that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. You now have 2 or 3 different ways in which they're denying and depriving their body and calling it health and wellness, or worse, like I said, putting the word fitness beside their name, you know, Jane Doe Fitness, you know, which should be Jane Doe warning sign, severe eating disorder ahead. So these eating disorder types, they don't stop there, because often on top of that, you'll see that they also advocate 30-day fasts or water fasts. So on top of already depriving their bodies for weeks and even months with something like keto, and then something like keto with intermittent fasting, or vegan with intermittent fasting, or keto 1 meal a day, and how great and glorious and wonderful it is. Then they go and fast for anywhere from 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, 30 days. You can find all of that amongst these social media influencers online. So they're going from a depletion, deprivation and deny diet approach to advocating complete starvation for an extended period of time on top of that. And all of this under the guise of health, wellness, fitness, etc. So then, likely for good measure, they'll talk about esoteric supplements that really are just out there and don't mean anything, or they'll talk about specific types of cleanses. So, you know, liver cleanses and kidney cleanses and toxicity cleanses and all the rest of it, and supplements to cleanse, isogenics, those kind of things. So, so they start compiling, adding on other ways to deprive and deny the body under the guise of health, fitness, wellness. And then there's even more extremes out there. And these are people, they advocate things like drinking urine, things like that. So you will know right away, I mean, anybody that's advocating drinking urine. But these things make it from social media. If there's enough likes and followers, they make it to legitimate press releases on various big, you know, press sites. And that's where it starts to get really convoluted. So, I mean, look for warning signs that things are extreme. And I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the notion of drinking urine is on the extreme side. And then when these people end up failing at whatever it is they're doing, then what happens is the extreme part is removed and they blame what would otherwise be a healthy approach. So their whole approach, what you got to realize, is one of extremes, and you need to be able to see that so you don't fall prey to such unhealthy practice combinations. Because like I said, I tend to ignore this nonsense, and then I start scrolling through the comment feeds, and it's people who don't know any better. They think that these people are educated, or these people have their weight under control, which is another thing I will get at. So they, oh, that's a good idea. I'll try this and I'll try that. So, you know, oftentimes these people can even find some obscure piece of research to back any of these things that they're practicing, but they'll never be able to find any research or experts who would say that combining all of these deprivation practices together represent health and wellness, because what they are really about is starvation and restriction. And this isn't health and wellness, it's illness, plain and simple. And of course, when you control your own social media feed, anyone who points that out, they will just get their comments deleted. So it looks like everything these people are doing is so wonderful, etc. And then these extremists, when the whole house of cards come down, they're the ones that are held out online to show, see, this didn't work. This person, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but it's very, very frustrating. So, yeah, very, MK is just saying, the water fast has made a comeback lately, being promoted by well-known fitness celebrities. Anything that can make money, like the snake diet, one of the most restrictive things out there, hundreds of thousands of followers, basically of people who know nothing about metabolism. So really, really important. We got to get across this notion, of what extremism looks like and what an eating disorder looks like. So I really, really want to get into that. But make no mistake, too, there are many out there who become vegan for the same reason, because it's they can restrict and control and deny and deprive the body. But if you examine their diet when they've gone vegan, you'll see that with what they post, they only choose always the lowest calorie foods. So there's like lettuce and carrots and stuff, and they're still avoiding starches and legumes and nuts or seeds, or they'll even convince you. I've had people write me like, that they're allergic to everything that has caloric density to it. So they'll rave about a healthy diet, but their real agenda is to restrict calories in the service of weight loss and food obsession and weight obsession, etc. So I'm going to post that in the comment section because I think it's a worthy thing to post. Let me just do that up here. No, I didn't figure that one out. So again, very, very important to figure these things out, what illness looks like when it's being represented as health and wellness. So I'm going to post that up there on the screen right now. Hopefully all that will show. So they rave about a healthy diet, but their real agenda is to restrict calories in the service of weight control and food obsession, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really, really important. This weight obsession, food obsession, becomes something you have to be able to see through in order to understand what these people are presenting to you and how it's a mirage. They're really actually sick people. So for instance, you see, I'll give you another example from the world I come from, which competing, as I witnessed in the physique competition world, ladies were and are attracted to competing on a fitness stage as a way to legitimize their eating disorders, because then they can openly obsess about diet and body image online on their social media feed, while claiming all of it is just part of being in the physique competition game. But the real reason they're even attracted to competing in the first place is the very nature of it means obsession over food restriction in particular, obsession with diet, and especially connected with an obsession with the body. So really, really important stuff to keep in mind. Now, this is how important this is. I'm going to hold Modern Nutrition and Health and Disease up again. All right, this is the 10th edition and it's old. So this book was before the proliferation of social media. And the reason I'm holding that up, like I said, a 3,000-page encyclopedia, there's a whole section in here, page 1,353 to page 1,360, and other areas in the book that talk about psychosocial eating disorders in particular, and how to recognize it, and how people will adopt otherwise healthy diets, and by going extreme with them, they are actually advocating eating disorder because they come from an eating disorder. They're ill to begin with, so they filter everything through their illness. The problem now is you can get a gazillion followers doing that. So that's really, really messed up, and that's really, really problematic when you have 200,000 or 300,000 people following you. So what you will also see, another way of recognizing this, is you'll see these types pinball around from one diet extreme to the next. So right now, a popular theme and meme online and social media is why I quit vegan. It's very popular because it attracts a ton of people because the word itself is controversial. But if you look at most of these types and their food neurosis, because they definitely have a food neurosis, they think everything either makes them sick or healthy with no in between. But a look at most of these types, and their food neurosis is quite obvious from the get-go. No matter what diet they follow, they won't follow it in healthy ways for very long, because their real goal is about ways to restrict and control calories and keep body weight down. So they'll post pictures of their body, and people who are envious of a thin body, who don't understand how unhealthy that body may be, or will start posting nonsense in support, which makes them double down even more on doing sick things to their body, deprivation and deny for months and months, years and years, etc. So, of course, over time, these same people, why I quit vegan, they go from saying they feel great when they initially started vegan. If you scroll through their feed from 1 or 2 or 3 years ago, you'll see when they first switched over, everything was wonderful and they feel great. They can't believe how healthy they are. And the exact same things they are saying about why they quit the former way they diet is what they come full circle and end up saying again about the current diet that they are leaving. So why I quit vegan, or why I quit paleo, or why I quit keto, or whatever. So whatever craziness they are doing, they end up saying they don't feel well and their doctor told them they are sick or whatever. But what do you think is going to unfold when you deprive and deny your body of energy for months and even years? So it's very, very predictable. But what happens is everyone doesn't look at the extremes. They look at what they're saying as to why they abandoned such and such a thing. So it makes no sense. So the truth is, it's the extremes that they are practicing that led them to illness and metabolic hell and metabolic chaos and digestive chaos and digestive ill health. But they end up blaming what is otherwise a healthy diet approach, like the whole food plant-based diet, until they, because they apply it in very extreme and sickly ways, because they filter everything through their illness. What diet approach can I take where it's advocating from the get-go to restrict food in some kind of way? So keto restricts carbs and all these other things. And then they add to that on top, and then they present it with the word fitness beside their name or whatever else. So the reason you see them not stick with a method for more than a couple of years at a time is because eating disorders beget serious ADHD when it comes to all things related to food and diet and body image. So they'll be going along on something and feeling pretty well on it, but as they start following it, they'll look for more ways to be more extreme and more restrictive with it. So like I said, they go vegan, but then all they eat is raw food, or all they eat is fruit, or all they eat is salads. And so they become more and more extreme, but at the same time, they're always looking for the next way they can deprive their body. So they become very, very attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder in all things related to body image and food and weight. So they end up pinballing around every couple of years to some latest craze. And of course, when that actually coincides with whatever new vogue trend comes down the pike in terms of diet, especially pop culture diet, then they jump on board with that. But all you have here are people who are hell-bent on calorie depriving their bodies so that they can be thin and stay thin. They really have both an obsession with food and eating and an irrational fear of food and eating. And what often secretly goes with this is body image obsession and preoccupation. So beware, you need to be able to recognize these people with eating disorders who are misrepresenting, combining food deprivation and denial practices and passing them off as representing health and fitness. Such combinations do not represent health and fitness. They are reflective of illness, either EDNOS, eating disorders not otherwise specified, or orthorexia. So this is really, really big, important stuff because of the level of influence it seems to be having on social media. So beware, eating disorders are disguised as health and fitness. You see these people putting, Jane Doe Fitness beside their name or whatever, and really what they're advocating comes from filtering everything about diet and food and health through their unhealthy, sick mind with eating disorders. So that's the way, it's unfolding. So I'm going to look at your comments now. So let's see. What's Paul just saying here? It's crazy out there in Instagram, such nonsense. The whole influencer status is so dangerous. You got that right. It's not about true knowledge and truth or expertise. It's about the look, the world of Instagram is all about the look, not about health. Yeah, depending on who you follow, and the social media influencers are so good at the influence part. Their stuff is always shiny, shiny new object, so it gets you to look at it. But at the same time, what is that? What is it actually showing? So Daniel's just saying, is there any time I'd suggest a fast? Yeah, from the time you go to bed till the time you wake up in the morning. That's intermittent fasting. That's about as much as you want to fast. If you're eating a healthy diet, then you need all those meal times in order to ensure proper digestion, assimilation of nutrients, because a lot of nutrients compete with each other for absorption. So eating one meal a day is ridiculous because you're going to have so much competition for nutritional absorption, things like that. So no, I never advocate. All that stuff is absolute and utter nonsense. The body is made to be self-cleansing. That's why we have liver, kidneys, etc. Bronco's just saying, how about vegans that avoid nuts and deem them as unhealthy? Yeah, I see that as a new trend as well. And yet, if you get to the heart of that, what'll happen there, Bronco, this is a good point that you bring up, because what'll happen there is the ones who are prone, who have eating disorders and filter everything through a sick mind, they know that nuts are calorically dense. Nuts are very calorie dense foods. And if you're on a whole food plant diet, you need more of that. But they will say, oh, I can now restrict nuts because someone out there deemed them unhealthy. And there was some study that said this, that, or the other thing lacks context. And then what you end up seeing is that they start advocating, oh, I'm whole food plant-based, or I'm vegan, but I don't eat nuts. And then I don't eat. And then what you see, like I said, is they restrict the most calorie dense food so that they're basically eating rabbit food. And then, of course, down the road, they get sick, or, they start binge eating or whatever. Paul saying, I do intermittent fasting for 4 years and like it. I do it for brain health mostly. That's questionable. But yeah, I mean, if you're eating healthy or whatever, I'm talking about looking out for, what's up out there with people that are advocating really dangerous practices where they're stacking things, Paul, like intermittent fasting on top of calorie deprivation, carbohydrate deprivation, fear of food, body obsession, those kinds of things. So, yeah, so really, really important. Bronco's just saying the same people that also claim that studies that are showing nuts in a positive light are funded by the nut industry. Sometimes people can have a conflict of interest and still be representing good science and good truth. Even Michael Greger has come on. He's about the most objective scientist out there in the plant-based community. And he's, advocating nuts, of course. So, yeah, so that's something to look out for as well. So it's very, very important. So MK is just saying, unfortunately, the advent of social media, the disorders are spreading quicker and wider. That's why I'm doing this. I was around men and women who had serious eating disorders because of competing, and now they coach hundreds of people online. Yeah, I mean, that's a great point there, MK. I mean, that's, I left that world, and then I see people who used to be clients of mine who clearly still have eating disorders, and they're coaching other people. And, how dangerous is that? And we see the organizations that represent these things and want to glorify them don't understand what eating disorders even are. So a couple of years ago, one of the biggest websites in physique transformation industry, like bodybuilding.com, did a big profile on this girl, how she overcame her eating disorder with competing. And no, she didn't. And they were just underlying the fact that she still had an eating disorder. She could now just legitimize it as being legitimate because it's the pursuit of the perfect body on stage. So she has to be obsessed with her body. She has to be obsessed with food. She has to be obsessed with eating. So they were giving her points for overcoming an eating disorder when she didn't do that at all. She just doubled down on it. And then they reinforced it by glorifying her and giving her that kind of attention. And I see the same thing online with these wannabe coaches who are saying like they're metabolic experts, they're metabolism experts. And then all you see in their diet is just another short-term weight loss diet. And then they tell their clients, see, that shows that it's working. You're losing weight. That doesn't show that at all. And I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming piece of research about maybe possibly solving metabolic damage, because I want to keep some of these webinars I'm going to keep actually short. So good one there. That was a great point. having a plant-based diet does not mean vegetarian, vegan. It doesn't have to be. Like Michael Pollan said, eat food, not a lot, mostly plants. But it's becoming more and more obvious that the more the more plant-based you eat, so becoming almost completely carbohydrate-based, is going to make you more or less vegetarian, vegan. And the research that is in show the healthiest BMIs are of people who are totally plant-based. So that's just, I've done webinars on that a million times. So there's all of that to consider as well. So, but that's, it's a good point. It needs clarification, then great. Yeah, that's a very good point. So good question, Daniel. So I'm glad you guys were able to attend and consider this and contribute with your comments. I'm hoping, leave your comments below if you're watching this later and you couldn't attend live, because I know it's the middle of a work day, but people were asking me to start experimenting with different days and times and with shorter versions of my webinars. So I'm going to do that, but just posting this up here again. So beware eating disorders disguised as health and fitness, especially on social media. We've got way too many people that are using the word fitness beside their name when they clearly have an illness regarding food, etc. So yeah, very important. So I'll throw that up there for you to keep in mind. Daniel's just saying, yep, he's not opposed to vegetarian. Was just curious on my perspective. Yeah, I didn't get that you were opposed to it. You just needed some clarification. Happy to provide it. Hopefully I did. So anyway, hopefully, folks, you will share this. You'll get it out there. People really need to start paying attention to what they're paying attention to, because even on my feed, some of the people that follow me and then don't follow me as much now is because I point out this stuff. And if you see their Instagram feeds and stuff, they are on serious eating disorder waves, advocating, like I said, they're stacking ways to restrict and deprive the body and calling it healthy. So let's call it deprivation stacking. There's a word. Someone write that in the comment section. And actually I'm gonna write that in there because I just came up with that, but it sounds pretty impressive. So what we need to do is get people to understand these things. So watch out for eating disorders that are marked by deprivation stacking. So they're not only just, eliminating complete macros, but they're also they start eliminating meal times. They start eliminating the number of meals. They combine it with intermittent fasting, like I said, or this or that, and then other ways. And they over-exercise. I didn't even comment on that. You got all these exercise addicts that think that they need to exercise 7 days a week, etc. So watch out for deprivation stacking as well. That's something we should start putting in the vernacular, get it out there, so people can recognize an eating disorder when they see it. So that's it. Nice and short today, but beware eating disorders disguised as health and fitness. Just because someone puts fitness beside their name or empowerment beside their name, or Insta influencer, weight loss expert beside their name, and especially metabolism expert beside the name, it's buyer beware out there. So, beware what you're paying attention to, what you're buying into, because people with eating disorders are alive and well on social media, and they are becoming Insta influencers, and they're going to make a lot of people sick, and they're going to make a lot of people obsess about food in a way they'll never have a sane relationship with food again, and that's never a good idea. So Daniel, you're at higher body fat level at age 37. Which of the books should you start with? I don't know. Understanding Metabolism, Permanent Weight Loss. You could start with those for sure. Lean Without Trying is my latest book. If you're at that big a fat and you want to have a sustainable, long-term change that forever, then one-on-one coaching is always the way to go, so that you don't have to filter everything through your own mental habit loops that may be preventing you from losing the weight and keeping it off. Losing it is one thing. Sustaining it forever is another. So that usually takes a third-party interaction constantly. So you get outside your own head, because quality of mindset is what determines quality of behavior. So hopefully that makes sense. So Domino's just saying that, yeah, my books are excellent. Excellent books. Yeah, in his opinion. So that's good. Always nice to know that. Bronco's just asking, since women are more prone to eating disorders, yes, 80 to 85% of people with eating disorders are female. How come they're not listening in? Might be the time of day, Bronco. It could be. It's a middle of a work day. But oftentimes they just don't want to hear it because they totally buy into the deprivation, deny mentality. And they also sort of, they don't respond to things like this. They respond to, if I put on the webinar how to lose 20 pounds in 30 days, it would be all women on here because they, even though they say they know better, they still respond to the shiny new object and they still respond to the sizzle more so than the steak. So very, very important. But that's a great question. So glad you guys are contributing. Hope to have more of these shorter, live broadcasts in the future. But if, like I said, if you're watching this later, and even those of you who were here live, pay attention to this point. Pay attention to this. I will pin it to my Facebook page. And when other people come on board to comment, by all means, interact with them and make some suggestions and post my various YouTube clips on all these topics. So thanks for being there. It's always great to have people come on board and share with me. Again, watch this, and if you're just getting on board now, watch the replay and comment. And I would love to, see people getting on board and interacting, and then it tells me what I need to talk about more of. So, yeah. The cycle diet course he's recommending to you. So that's good, Daniel, as well. So you might want to check that out. And yeah. So Lana's just saying she's listening. Hopefully you didn't just get on board, Lana, because I'm all done the lecture. So hopefully you'll watch the replay and by all means comment, and that'll be great. So thanks, guys. I hope you benefited from this. If you did, please use some emoticons across the screen and all the rest of that stuff that Facebook likes, because it'll get a bigger reach. And please hit that share button and comment below as well. And if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel or whatever, you might want to jump on there as well, because that's where I tend to post all these things. So all the best, everybody, and glad you're being out there. But please share, and let's get people talking about what needs to be talked about instead of these influencers who are controlling the conversation, which they're not necessarily experts. So yeah, let's get it going. Let's get the conversation started. And like I said, this is for smart people who want to have intelligent conversations. So I'll see you all next time.